Thanks, Ruben. So hi, everybody. My name's Kathy Straub. I am a professor and the department chair in the Department of Earth and Environmental Sciences at Susquehanna. And I'm also the director of what we call the SEER, or the Center for Environmental Education and Research. And what you can see on my first slide here is our solar array. It's the largest university-owned solar array in Pennsylvania. And we mow the lawn under the solar array with a flock of sheep. So that's what I'm showing here. So I wanted to start by just showing you the cast of characters across a couple of our majors at Susquehanna in our environmental programs. I will talk about our environmental science and environmental studies programs, and then I will hand it over to Dr. Matlaga, who will talk about our ecology program. So on the left-hand side of the screen, you will see our Earth and Environmental Sciences department. So we have faculty who specialize in geology, that's the rocks, hydrology, that's the water, soils, that's the soils, and the air, and that is myself and the other guy with my same last name, Derek Straub, who happens to be my husband. So we are the two meteorologists on staff. On the right-hand side, you will see a few of the contributors to our environmental studies program, and I'll explain the difference between these two programs in just a minute. But you can see that the environmental studies program is obviously more interdisciplinary. As you can see, there are faculty in English and religious studies, environmental ethics, and policy. And then in the square in the bottom is our university sustainability coordinator, Derek Martin. So he works through the SEER, but he also teaches in our program. He teaches perspectives for incoming students, and he's teaching a new course called Sustainability in Society next semester, as well as sustainable management in our business school. So how can you study the environment at Susquehanna University? There are actually 3+ ways that you can do that. As I mentioned, we have majors in Earth and Environmental Sciences and Environmental Studies, and also Ecology, which is a combination of environmental science and biology. There's also a related major in our political science department. We have a public policy major, and you can actually focus on an environmental policy track if that's something that you're interested in. And a lot of our majors, as you'll hear from our students, are double majors, major and a minor, major and 2 minors. People do all kinds of combinations. So I'll first talk a little bit about Earth and Environmental Sciences, and then I'll talk about environmental studies and some of our extracurricular opportunities and our SEER, and then I'll hand it over to Dr. Matlaga. So the Earth and Environmental Sciences major is a science major. So we are training you to be a scientist. And we have the introductory sequence that all of our students take across their first 2 years. Starts out with a general intro environmental science course that's relatively similar to AP environmental science, if that's something that you're in right now. Then you take a course in geology, a course in hydrology or water, and a course in meteorology or weather. Then after that, you take some distribution requirements. So like kind of the next level of courses across some of those fields: geology, water, surface processes, energy, and climate. We also require some what we call corollary courses of some math and some chemistry and some physics, because earth science really is a science that incorporates all of these different disciplines. And then we have a lot of different electives that students can take when they're juniors and seniors: wetlands, a mapping course, sustainable energy, all kinds of climate change, more geology courses, all kinds of courses. And all of our seniors, and Jonathan can talk about this because he's one of our seniors in environmental science this year, do 1 year of research where they are partnered with a faculty member. Jonathan just happens to be my research student, so maybe that's why he's here tonight. So everybody that does a whole year of research, and we have 2 courses that go along with that are called Senior Project 1 and Senior Project 2. I'm myself teaching Senior Project 1 this semester, and in addition to our students working on research projects with a faculty advisor, we do a lot of career preparation as well, so that when you are ready to graduate in May, you have some idea about how to get a job or go to grad school, all those good things. And Jonathan can talk more about that if there are questions. So the next thing is basically what I was just talking about is in environmental science, everybody completes this 1 year senior research project with a faculty member. You can see our faculty member, Dr. Straub, over there on the left-hand side with one of our students, Andrew Van Wart, who I actually just heard this afternoon is getting a position with the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA. So that's really exciting. He graduated a couple years ago and went on to do a master's program at University of Pennsylvania. A lot of our students present their research at scientific conferences. This year, conferences are tending obviously to be more virtual, but in normal times, we send students off to conferences. I've had students go all the way out to Phoenix for conferences. We send students to a conference called NCUR, the National Council of Undergraduate Research. So we really try and get students out, especially when they're seniors and they have their own research to talk about, to get in front of an audience of other scientists to talk about their research. What do our environmental science majors do after they graduate? Well, they do a wide variety of things. One of our most popular outcomes of our environmental science students is going into environmental consulting. So the first guy you see on the left here, Jeremy Motzko, he actually just was a guest speaker in my class this week, yesterday morning. So he is in environmental consulting. And the fourth person from the left, Melissa Barnes, is also in environmental consulting, and she talked to my class earlier this semester. Tom Kitt, who is the second one, he actually works as a solar systems designer for Tesla out in Las Vegas. And he gave a seminar for our students within the last month about what it's like to work for Tesla and to design solar systems for people's houses. The guy in the middle, Eric Lawrence, didn't really know what he wanted to do and took a class that I taught called Current Topics his last semester, and ended up really kind of falling in love with the idea of restoration and fire ecology, and ended up working out in Yosemite National Park and has lived out west ever since. And then the woman on the right, Cassie Fox, she just graduated in 2019. And she ended up working kind of in the environmental field, but more in terms of like hazardous waste, environmental emergencies, those kinds of things. So just it gives you kind of a cross section of what some of our recent graduates have done. I would say about maybe a quarter of our graduates end up going to grad school right after they graduate. I know it's a little early to think about that because you haven't even started college yet. And I think Grace can maybe talk a little bit about that. Yes, about thinking about grad school, and so can Jonathan when we get to them. So next I'll talk about our environmental studies major. So our environmental studies major is our interdisciplinary environmental major. So in environmental studies, you're not necessarily being trained to be a scientist out in the field, collecting data, analyzing data, all that kind of stuff. Environmental studies is more about taking action on environmental issues. So you can see the courses that are required for the environmental studies major that include some science courses, environmental science, climate change, but then you can see that it really is very interdisciplinary with environmental law and ethics and policy and environmental writing, right? So it's a very different kind of major. And so that's where we pull in a lot of faculty expertise from faculty members outside of specifically the Earth and Environmental Sciences department. And you can see in the environmental studies major, there are a whole wide range of electives. There are probably like 30 different electives that you can take, but I don't have space to put 30 of them on this slide. So I just put some of them on here. So the course that our sustainability coordinator, Derek Martin, teaches called Managing for Sustainability. There's a course in the business school called Sustainable Entrepreneurship. There's courses that are more along the social justice lines, the literature lines, right? And so you can really mix and match and make this degree your own based on the choices of electives that you make. So in the environmental studies major, rather than necessarily focusing on like the scientific research like we do in our science majors, we really focus more on developing student skills to go out and actually make change in the world. So I teach a 300 level course in the environmental studies program that's called Current Topics. And we do things in that course like think about, you want to do a big project, who are the stakeholders involved? So you can see some examples on the left of I had students write things out on the board, brainstorming about who stakeholders for a particular problem was. We were talking about the Chesapeake Bay at the time. On the bottom, you can see a nice looking spreadsheet that I had them all learn how to write a grant proposal, how to create a budget for a grant proposal, because these are things that environmental studies students do when they graduate, is they do some fundraising, they do some stakeholder work like that. On the right-hand side, you can see there is a website that's called the Ginkgo website. So Susquehanna's, I don't know, like, is it our school tree? Is the ginkgo tree, which is a very ancient tree, and it makes these really stinky berries, but it's ours. And so one of our students created the Ginkgo website, which is a sustainability website. So it's just a way of, kind of pulling more of the narrative elements of environmental studies into something that she actually, put online. And there's content from a lot of different students and faculty on there. And then in the middle, I added a picture of what is going to happen in our capstone course for the environmental studies major next semester. As I'll talk about in a minute, we have this big adjacent property to campus called the SEER, and we recently got a fairly substantial donation from outside the university to work on developing some trails and some signage along those trails. So we're actually going to let the senior capstone class kind of tackle that project. So we're going to develop some trails out at the SEER. Here's some examples of what some of our environmental studies graduates have done. Our environmental studies major is relatively new. So the woman you see on the left, Marissa, was actually our first graduate from the environmental studies program. And she did a double major in environmental studies and creative writing. And the first job she got right out of college was for the Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay. So she, as a communication specialist, so she definitely, synthesized her environmental major and her creative writing major. And she actually still works there to this day. I was just in touch with her recently. So we also have students who have gone on to work more in the energy field. So Wise Markets is our local grocery store around here. Derek Wrights is an energy analyst for Wise Markets. We have students who move all the way across the country. Osbach decided to do a program with youth out in LA after she graduated. Jenny Lean went into the Peace Corps in Togo, so that was very exciting. Unfortunately, she got called back because of the pandemic, but she got to spend a good chunk of time there. And then Anthony Wojciechowski was a double major in environmental studies and English literature and is in law school in Colorado in Boulder right now. So you can see, again, just a very wide range of outcomes from our graduates from the environmental studies program. So I just want to talk a little bit about extracurricular activities that you can get involved in that are environmentally related at Susquehanna. So I put the Instagram names on here of all these different things you can follow if you're interested. So Geo Club, they do a lot of hiking, walks, those kinds of things. We have bees on campus. My husband is not only a faculty member, but our campus beekeeper. So there's a beekeeping club. So they keep bees and they collect the honey and they sell the honey. There's a campus garden, and you can see on the left-hand side, that's Derek Martin, our sustainability coordinator, standing in the middle of our campus garden. We grew over 1,000 pounds of food this summer, and we donated it all to community partners in our local community to fight food insecurity. So Derek Martin is the one and only employee of our sustainability office, and he does an absolutely amazing job of infiltrating sustainability into every aspect of Susquehanna life. So you can follow Sustainable SU if you're interested in learning more. He also hires students, as does the campus garden. So we employ students through both of those places in the summer and during the school year. You can also get involved in our Environmental Science and Studies Honor Society and Ecology, I should say. And we also have a bunch of volunteer opportunities for students to go out to different areas in the community and do some restoration projects. So I also wanted to make sure to talk about what the SEER is. So here is part of our campus. I don't know if you can see my mouse moving around here. This is our campus center right here. The rest of the campus is over here. Here are some of the dorms. And this whole area over here is our SEER. Now, this is an old image. There's actually a gigantic solar array right in here where it says solar array. But you can see that there's areas for ecology research. There's groundwater wells. There's areas for the geophysics testing in my department. That's where our campus garden is. That is where we have some air sampling equipment, all kinds of good stuff going on out at the SEER. Oh, and I put a little thing in here called syrup because it turns out you can tap walnut trees and make walnut syrup. So we decided to call it syrup because we think we're funny. Also at the SEER is the Freshwater Research Institute, or FRI, or FRI, and that is an externally funded ecology lab, freshwater ecology lab, that has 2 staff members, John Niles and Matt Wilson. And I have some pictures of the students. They hire a lot of students in the summer too, and they teach classes. You can see some of the things that they do. They go out into streams and basically monitor stream health. And they also do some restoration. You can see the woman standing next to the tube. We did a big tree planting out at the SEER. We planted over 500 trees and shrubs late spring this year. And the woman who's standing there, her name is Adrienne Gemberling, and she actually works for the Chesapeake Conservancy, which is a nonprofit based out of Annapolis, Maryland, but she works at the Fry at Susquehanna. And she has several interns that she hires every year. I think Grace is actually one of them right now, so she can talk a little bit about that. But you can see that the Fry also has a lot of other partners, state agencies, our county conservation district, et cetera. So it's really good for getting students kind of networked into the professional world and trying to find out what do you want to do after graduation. One way that you can do that is by actually interacting with those folks who really have jobs in those agencies through our Fry. And I just wanted to finish by kind of coming back to sustainability. We recently applied for and received a silver certification for all the different sustainability efforts that we have going on campus. And this is really impressive because we actually just started really kind of our strong sustainability efforts a couple years ago when we hired Derek Martin, our sustainability coordinator, and we got a bronze certification just 2 years ago. And in just 2 years, we have increased our medal to a silver. So we're very proud of that. And that actually just came out within the last couple months. So with that, I will turn it over to David, who I think has a different PowerPoint to share.
Okay, thank you so much, Kathy. There were things in there that I learned. That was fantastic. I don't have nearly as much to say, so I'm just going to be talking about the ecology major at Susquehanna University. I think that we are unique. There are not many small liberal arts colleges out there with ecology majors, and we are also unique in having these fantastic resources to study ecology here. And we're going to talk more about them, but Kathy already mentioned the SEER, and we are, a long walk or a short car ride to the Susquehanna River. There's one of our faculty members, looks like Charles Darwin out there in the Susquehanna River. So my name is David Matlaga. I am a plant ecologist. I primarily study terrestrial plants. I have on here the website if you want to learn more about ecology at SU. I have my email too. Please don't hesitate to send me emails asking any questions at all about plants or just the ecology major. I'm happy for any emails at all. So this is kind of an overly complicated Venn diagram if you're wondering how all of our interdisciplinary majors kind of come together here. This is a nice piece of abstract art. So we can see there's our environmental studies, which Kathy was talking about how it kind of interacted with both the earth and environmental sciences and biology. But environmental studies is not a science in itself. So ecology, which is the discipline of the study of the interaction between the abiotic, non-living part of an ecosystem, its interaction with the living part of an ecosystem. So that's where our ecology major lies. But ecology is a science, so we're working on developing young scientists that are formulating hypotheses, figuring out and learning the methods to go out there and collect data. And then we also stress the analysis of data. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And the writing of reports and all of that fun stuff. So here is a list of our faculty. We didn't get a picture of everyone. There's just too many folks to fit in. So in this kind of orangish is our Earth and Environmental Sciences faculty, who you've heard a bit about already. And here on my right in the yellow are our biology faculty that teach in the ecology major. So we really have quite a diversity of interests, from aquatic ecology. Jack Holt is the guy who looks like Charles Darwin, who studies diatoms and also the kind of snot-like substance that covers rocks and rivers. We have a mammologist who studies bats and creepy things like that. There's myself. I study invasive plants. My wife studies salamanders. She has a nice project going on right on the hilltop behind our house with a bunch of students. And this week she managed to pull out 50 salamanders of specific species she's studying, and she marks these salamanders by injecting them with like little tattoos, puts them back out in the field, and is doing a marker capture study. There's John Niles, who you heard a little bit about, who studies fish and is the director of the Fry. Alyssa Packer studies plant microbe interactions, focusing on what's going on below ground. And then, which I think really makes us unique, is that we have two faculty members who specialize in the behavior of spiders. Just in case you have been wondering, what are all those spiders doing out there? We have people who can talk to you at length about that. And I think Grace knows all about that stuff, and she'll tell us more in a little bit. And then we have some folks who study microbial ecology, and then some folks who study the bugs in streams. So that's our faculty. We really have quite a diversity of interests, and especially if we put both of our departments together, the folks who teach in the ecology major. Okay, so the curriculum. As an ecology major, what would you study? So we have an intro sequence to give you a foundation in ecology, where we start with intro to ecology, biogeodiversity, and then the two most important classes that I study, of course, community and ecosystem ecology that I'm teaching right now, fantastic course, and then biostats. Biostats is something that scares students in the beginning, but we are really gentle. We kind of don't do as much math as you might think in a statistics course. It's fun. We try to make statistics as much fun as possible, and for students not to shy away from it when the time comes to analyze your data. And then we also have these 2 credit courses that are really typically taught in a more seminar style: sustainable food systems, biology of invasive species. That's one that I teach. I also teach a climate change biology class. And there's a few other there, including amphibian population declines. And then we have electives, both from the biology department and then electives from the Earth and Environmental Sciences department. And we can see what they are there, but really these are classes that are a little bit more in depth than from our introductory sequence, but we really have quite a diversity of classes that students can choose from. And then the really fun part is the capstone research, where you get a year-long experience doing research, getting your hands dirty, having lots of successes and failures. It's good fun for both the advisors and the students. And of course, there's some corollary courses, some chemistry. Nobody gets out of a science major without, taking a little chemistry. We really emphasize field work and data collection in all of our classes. Our labs are always very active. At the SEER that we have on the edge of campus, we have some large plots of land that we have mowed at different, they've been mowed at different ages. So we have plots of land that are, 5 years old, plots of land that are 7 years old, and we can do lots of cool projects with it. In my community and ecosystem ecology course, students have an ongoing project right now where they're sampling insects in these different age fields. And now they've been sampling for a few weeks now, and now we've got to the point where everyone's trying to identify the insects, and it's lots of fun. And we have lots of aquatic stuff going on. We have the Susquehanna River close by. We also have a bunch of other streams that are really close. So we have experts at identification of the bugs in the streams and the fish, which makes the research a lot more meaningful. And we really emphasize all stages of the research experience: collecting the data, analyzing the data. That's why we need to learn statistics, and then writing reports and presenting what you found. Senior research is really very unique to the lab that you join. It's a little different in each lab. Each lab has a professor who has some ideas about what research you could do, but really it is collaborative, and students get a say in steering how their research goes. So this semester I started a new project with my students looking at fruit removal from a very common invasive shrub here in central Pennsylvania, a Japanese honeysuckle that has these bright red berries that are really attractive to both birds and deer. And my students are developing a project looking at how fruit removal changes across being out in the open for the plant and being on the edge of a forest and being in the kind of shaded understory. And our students present their work at both regional conferences and in days when we actually could go places, but nowadays this is all virtual, and some national conferences. And we have had students that have traveled pretty far. We have students that often do research in the summers with us. Not every professor does research with students every summer, but a lot of us do. This is a terrible picture of me doing some research in the field with one of my students studying Japanese knotweed. But we do have some different funding sources that are available to us to have students that come on. And sometimes this summer research kind of transitions its way into being the capstone research project, which is always lots of fun. And here is a summer research project that Grace might have been involved in, looking at the effects of herbicide on ground spiders. And every one of these little deli cups is a ferocious spider that has been subjected to different amounts and types of herbicides. And then there was some measurement of how those herbicide amounts and types could potentially influence their ability to eat prey. Grace will tell us more about that in a minute, I'm sure. So what do our ecology majors do after they graduate? It always happens. They leave us and we're sad at the time, but they go out into that big world. And we really see that they kind of are split roughly evenly between going out into environmental consulting. We're working for nonprofits like zoos and museums, working for the government and other regulatory agencies like the EPA and USDA. And then, roughly a quarter of them go on to get more training and go on to grad school. And we really work hard to work with our seniors and try to figure out where they are interested in going and doing our best to help them with the contacts that we have and just kind of mentoring them in the process of getting into be it graduate school or the job field. Okay, that is everything I have. I have some other slides if anyone has any questions, but I think with that, we wanted to turn it over to our students who are going to tell you all the ins and outs of, and who wanted to talk first? Jonathan, right?
I can do that.
Awesome.
Okay, so good evening. My name is Jonathan. I am in a dual degree program in Earth and Environmental Science and Music, and I also have a minor in math. As Dr. Straub mentioned, I'm doing my research with her. I specifically focused on meteorology. It is one of my passions. It's one of her passions as well. So I think we're doing really well. We're working on atmospheric rivers, which is not a popular topic. It's relatively new. So I'm really excited. It's a year-long project that all science, or I should say all Earth and Environmental Science majors get to participate in, whether it be in geology, hydrology, soil science, or meteorology. Additionally, I did research last year during my summer with Dr. Straub, our hydrology teacher. And I also went on my GO program during that time to Morocco. He is also from Morocco, so it was really interesting to see a native from that area go back to that and tell us more specifically about what that region is like. And because he is the hydrology teacher, he was able to expose me to a lot of different environments that hydrology would be affecting in the different Morocco regions. There's a couple different environments. It's not just coastal, or most people think of the Sahara Desert. It's not just the Sahara Desert. So I thought that was really interesting. And so my extracurriculars, I have a lot. So I am the president of the Honors Society that Dr. Straub mentioned, Sigma Gamma Epsilon. I do a lot of music stuff, chamber music, band, orchestra. I am an oboe player. So there's a lot involved with that. In addition, I do some ultimate frisbee to stay active, and I try and go out with some of our student athletes as well. Some of them are currently practicing under the lights. So, and then one of the great things about our faculty is that they're really supportive in whatever future plans you want to do, whether it be going on to grad school, which I am currently looking at right now, and looking at meteorology, master's and PhD programs, and looking at jobs. The curriculum that SU and the variety of classes that are required to be taken for the major between ecology and environmental science really prepares you for different types of environments in the workforce. So I am going to pass it off. Hopefully that was informational.
Hi, I can speak next. So my name is Grace Chamberlain. I am a senior this year. I'm an ecology major, and then I have a minor in earth and environmental science, as well as an honors minor. So I'm part of the honors program here. So kind of like Dr. Straub had mentioned, I had an internship this summer through the Fry. So I worked as a research assistant with Dr. Niles and a few other students, and we had to modify it a little bit because of the pandemic, but luckily I got funding through the school and was able to still be a part of that. So I traveled to a couple of different locations in central PA, and we looked at population density of brook and brown trout in some local streams. We looked at like water quality, macroinvertebrates. So I got a lot of different exposure to kind of that process and doing research like that, which was very interesting. And I also was able to meet Adrienne Gemberling, who works at the Chesapeake Conservancy, but is at the Fry. And I've continued working for her into the school year this year. So I've done a lot of stuff with marketing for the DCNR, like making flyers that kind of tell people plant this, not that. So like invasive species versus native species. So yeah, I've had a lot of different experiences through the science department here. I'm also doing my senior research with Dr. Persons. So I'm doing looking at behavioral ecology of spiders, which I was nervous about at first because I'm not a huge spider person, but it's not as bad as it sounds. So I'm looking how they're trophically affected by herbicide exposure. And that's a year-long thing. And it's been very interesting. And I actually have my first capstone presentation tomorrow, which I'm very excited to share kind of how I've started my trials and experiment. Additionally, I went to New Zealand for a go long. So I was there for an entire semester last year. It was an amazing experience. And I think that's one of my favorite parts about Susquehanna is that they have you go abroad, whether it's a go short like Jonathan did or a go long for a whole semester. I think it's very important to be exposed to other cultures. And while I was there, I got to take some really neat classes that aren't offered here. So I got exposure to a marine ecology class, which we do now have in our program. It wasn't before, but that really sparked my interest, and that's what I want to go to graduate school for. So I've been working with some faculty members, Dr. Persons and Dr. Utica, who's currently abroad, but both of them have been helping me and guiding me throughout that whole process of looking at other programs and schools and how to get in touch with those people and how to really market yourself and be persistent, which is something I wouldn't have been able to do by myself. So I think really having those relationships with your professors, and they want to help. So I think if you seek them out, they will definitely be there to help you with anything you need, whether that's with post-grad plans or your current course load, anything. They're always willing to help, which has been really amazing. My last little thing, outside of school, I'm involved in Greek life on campus. I'm also in the animal club. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have. If you have any specific questions, just drop them in the chat and I can answer them later.
Hi guys, I'm Callie. I'm a sophomore environmental studies and creative writing double major, and I'm also in the honors program. On campus, I'm involved in harmonic combustion, which is a co-ed a cappella group, which is really fun because I loved music in high school and I loved being involved in choir, but obviously I'm not a music major, so it's a really great way to still be involved in music outside of the classroom, which is awesome. And I also work for Derek Martin in the Office of Sustainability. I'm a sustainability project leader, and so we work on projects to help do outreach campaigns to the campus to get people involved in sustainability and to educate people. Currently, I'm working on the Eco Challenge, which is a global challenge to make sustainable pledges to do things like take shorter showers or maybe go for a walk or research things like food insecurity. So it's a really cool thing, and it's really awesome to see our campus get involved in that. And so we're really focused on trying to get students involved in sustainability in whatever way they can. And I really like that opportunity as well. It's kind of a unique opportunity to Susquehanna. And Derek Martin's really awesome. He's really passionate about sustainability. I love working with him. So that's something that I'm also really happy to be involved in. I think that's everything I have. So you'll probably go to questions now.
All right. Well, thank you all so much, panelists. That was an incredibly thorough discussion of what we're here to talk about this evening. So for those of you that are attendees, just know that the chat function is available to you. If you want to be super fancy, you can raise your hand and I can let you even ask your question with your own live voice if you want to. But just to kind of get things kicked off, let me just toss out a question. I'll start with our faculty. And let's see if we can cover some things that haven't already been covered in the presentation. So I think my first question to you is, what do you love about teaching, and specifically at Susquehanna University?
I'll go first. So this is actually my 19th year at Susquehanna, which is crazy to actually say out loud. I came to Susquehanna in 2002. And when I came, I was actually hired as the new atmospheric person. They didn't have any atmospheric science in the program. It was called Geological and Environmental Sciences, our department, before I arrived, and we changed to Earth and Environmental Sciences shortly thereafter to kind of be more inclusive of meteorology, I guess. So for me, it's been amazing to be able to create a new program. I was also involved in creating the environmental studies program, so pulling in people from different disciplines. so like kind of professionally for me, it's really fun because I feel like I have a ton of academic freedom to just kind of create courses that I feel are important for students and will help students along, you know, in their path and create programs. I love teaching at Susquehanna because our classes are really small. I get to know all of my students. The topics are fun, right? Like I get to learn all the time along with my students. And if you're going to be a professor, you better love to learn because that's what we do all day long and it's fun. So, and like, you know, Jonathan was saying, his research project this year is on atmospheric rivers. I don't know very much about atmospheric rivers, but I'm learning along with Jonathan and we're having a lot of fun programming. Trying to blow up Jonathan's computer in the process. We haven't succeeded yet, which is good. So it's the topics, it's the flexibility, it's the students. The campus is lovely. It's just a wonderful place to live and work.
I would say similar things. So before coming to Susquehanna, I was a postdoc, which is kind of the step after getting your PhD and you're getting more research experience. I was a postdoc with the USDA Global Change and Photosynthesis Research Unit in Champaign, Illinois. I enjoyed the research, but every day I was just going to interact with a handful of people and think about plants all day long. I enjoyed it to some regard, but I really enjoy being here and interacting with excited students and thinking about new stuff all the time. I feel like every time I teach a new class, I'm completely overwhelmed at the beginning. How am I ever going to learn about all this stuff? And then I get so excited about all the different things. I get excited learning about streams and learning about oceans and all this other stuff that I wouldn't get to do if I was just a research scientist studying plants all day long. And I really like getting to know our students in class because the class sizes are small enough and you interact enough that you know, in the beginning, they're all faces, and then you start learning everyone's personality and what they're interested in. And I start looking in the material and trying to find what so-and-so would find really exciting and bringing that to class and seeing them light up. Oh, wow, that's really cool. And I love it. And similarly, I have a completely new, the project we have about fruit removal was something we totally came up with this year. We were trying to find a project that if things went totally online, how could it kind of still keep going? So we had this idea of these trip cameras. And if we set them up, we were hoping that we could just kind of cycle out the SD cards in them and keep collecting data. So it's something completely new, and it all hasn't gone well, surprisingly, but we're getting there and we're figuring it out. And the students are really excited about it.
Awesome. Well, I don't know if you caught the question in the chat there, but since we have a couple of faculty who are such fantastic teachers and researchers, they also serve our students as faculty advisors as well. So what are your thoughts about double majoring in elementary education and ecology?
I'm sorry to say this, but no, because the elementary education major, I just did this whole analysis of like a ton of majors at Susquehanna for this project I did for our board of trustees. And the elementary education majors are like the busiest, like literally the busiest people course wise on campus. They have such a high number of courses that are required to become certified as an elementary education teacher that there is no room to spare to add other stuff. So I'm sorry to say that, but that's not a thing. Now, you can be a biology secondary ed teacher. There is a biology secondary ed program. You get a biology degree and a secondary ed degree, but elementary ed folks they are busy.
And the kind of distinction between biology and ecology, you can really study very similar things and put it in the box of saying biology versus ecology. So it is possible to do similar things and call it biology.
One of our former students who graduated, I think it was in 2011, she's actually going to come and talk to my senior research class in a few weeks. She was an earth and environmental sciences major, just straight earth and environmental sciences, and then went and got a master's in teaching after that, because she didn't realize until late you know, kind of late in her career, that was really something that she was passionate about. So there are ways to get to that end goal by doing the science major in college and then going and doing an ed major after that, if that's something that you're interested in.
Hey, for the students, so how did you guys pick your majors? If you were going from what you were interested in, how did you decide earth and environmental sciences versus ecology versus environmental studies?
I can go first. So actually, when I was looking at schools to attend, I looked at a lot. But one thing that I did was with schools that I knew that, like, when I was narrowing it down, I reached out to professors in the science departments and asked if I could just meet with them to talk. So when I came to Susquehanna for a visit, I sat down with Dr. Peeler, and she just asked me to kind of like, just tell me about your interests, like what kind of things you might want to do, classes you might want to take. And I wanted to come in as a bio major. And after our talk, she's like, wow, I think you might really be interested like in our ecology program. And that's kind of how I realized that, like, and even I have tons of friends that are biology majors and have taken a lot of like ecology like type electives. So there's a lot of crossover. But I think kind of like having conversations with people to kind of figure out like where your interest lies is a really like important thing. And when you get here, you can always change majors and stuff like that. But that was something that I did that kind of helped me figure out where I wanted to go.
I can go. For me, I knew that I didn't want to do scientific research, but I was really interested in the environment, and a lot of schools don't have separate programs like this. So if I had gone to another school, I might have had to do more scientific labs and do scientific research, but I was really interested in how interdisciplinary this major is, and that's something that I've really come to love being at school as well, because I've been able to take English classes for my major. Last semester, I took a class called Shakespeare in the Environment, where we looked at how Shakespeare viewed the environment and how he portrayed it in his plays, which is really awesome. This semester, I'm in a class called American Environmental History, which kind of goes back kind of pre-people even to now, looking at how we've shaped the environment, which is also really interesting. So those are courses I might not have gotten to take in a more scientific program. So I really like the opportunity to have an interdisciplinary program. And also, like Grace says, you can really change your major a lot of times if necessary. I've added, so last year I decided I wanted to add public policy as a double major. And then just last month, I decided I would switch to creative writing because I realized that my passion kind of lied there. So really, there's a lot of opportunities to figure out what you like by taking classes, and you can make it work. In the end, your advisors are very helpful. Thank you, Dr. Straub, for always listening to my many questions about what major I should add. But so you have a lot of help and support here to help find what your passion is.
Yeah, so 4 years ago when I was deciding what school I wanted to go to, I got into a whole bunch of meteorology programs, and I got into a whole bunch of earth and environmental science programs and ecology programs, because most schools don't have this differentiation between ecology and environmental science. And I decided that, you know, maybe meteorology wasn't the path that I wanted to take. I wasn't really sure. And it turns out it was, but I didn't know. Maybe there was a possibility that hydrology was interesting to me. So in terms of keeping it broader, that's where I knew that this program would have been better. And not to mention, biology scares me, so the ecology department was definitely not a fit for me. Chemistry, but biology definitely not. And then in terms of keeping my music major, I couldn't make a decision. So it was pretty, I know that I could handle the heavy course load that comes with a double major or even a dual degree, which is more credits. So there was that. And then adding the math minor was, I always knew that I was a math person. And so I know going into future work, most jobs require at this point kind of a master's, and not all programs, but a lot of them will pay for them as well and that kind of stuff. So looking down the road, I knew that some of the math courses would have been needed in my field for those areas.
I just put a link in the chat for a new video that just was unveiled a few weeks ago about the SEER. So it talks about, it's really good. It shows all the different aspects of the SEER. If you're interested, you can copy and paste that link because it shows the bees, the campus garden, the Freshwater Research Institute, talks about our solar array and the sheep, and then also this riparian buffer tree planting project that we have going on there.
Actually, Dr. Straub, could you resend it and include all panelists and attendees?
Oops.
'Cause I
Yep.
think it's just the 6 of us that can see it right now.
You're right. That's fancier than I'm used to.
Awesome. Well, I hope as attendees, you're hearing the amount of input that you get to have into your experience at a place like Susquehanna. And you know, that's one thing that I deeply love about this school is that you can be in charge of your own destiny here. And you're certainly not pigeonholed into a very specific program. You can see where there's a lot of cross-pollination, no pun intended, between different majors and different, you know, even within the sciences and then across different disciplines at the university. And it's always just amazing for me to hear a student sort of list all of the things that they're doing during their time on campus here. And, you know, we've got 3 fantastic students on this panel tonight, but just know that any student that you would reach out to at Susquehanna would have a very similar story as far as all their different pieces of the puzzle that they've pulled together to have an experience that is really exciting and engaging, particularly to them. So we've got a couple more minutes. Here we go. Good, good, good. So what sort of career path do you all intend to take? So we'll turn it back over to the students for that one. That's a great question.
Oh, sorry. I'll just go real quick, but so like I kind of mentioned before, I'm looking at graduate programs right now. I'm not 100% sure what I want to do even after I'm done with that. I just know that I want to learn a lot more. I want to get some more experience in the lab and out in the field. So I just thought that that was going to be the next best step for me. And like I also said before, the faculty has been amazing at helping me like navigate this whole process because it's very overwhelming at times, but they're very, very supportive, and that's been a big help in figuring out kind of what I want to do post-grad.
Yeah, so same as Grace, I am also looking at graduate schools right now. I'm having constant chats with them every day now. It's completely crazy. But in addition to that, I'm also looking at jobs because I'm not really sure if I want to start graduate school in a COVID situation. I mean, hopefully that we can have in-person classes a year from now, but ultimately none of us really know. One can be optimistic, but we don't know. So one of those things that I have to, maybe not right now, but definitely by January, start looking at some of the jobs that might exist within the career path for environmental science majors. And that could be anything from a national park ranger to local park, state park people, to a solar engineer, as we saw some of the graduates of the program. So, yeah.
I honestly have no idea yet at this point, but I have time. But like I said, I recently just added the creative writing major, and so I'm going to start taking classes in the spring with that program. And I think that once I start getting into that, I'll start to be able to see how I can kind of combine these two passions. But I am interested in potentially working at a nonprofit or potentially like a government agency or like a parks and recreation program. something local where I can help people and educate people about the environment on like a more local level is what I'm hoping to get into.
If I could add something as well, there's tons of alumni and programs that a specific department called the CDC, Center for Career Development, sets up with alumni and kind of third-party people that's great. The alumni are always fantastic to talk to. I'm constantly talking to graduates from the last 4 years over my time. So yeah, I would say that in terms of meeting up with alumni and for looking for that job after graduation is always a success.
All right, we've got a couple of good questions in the chat there. So if one of our faculty would like to tackle that first one, would a student potentially be able to minor in ecology if they were in a busy major as well? In that case, that might address that.
Yes, you could definitely minor in ecology. If you wanted to do elementary education, you could minor in ecology. I mean, you know, it takes some planning, and there might be something, you know, that you would need to take 5 classes in a semester instead of 4 or something like that, right? Just because, like I said, the elementary major is just chock full of requirements. You can also do some double counting across majors and minors. Like I think 2 courses can double count between a major and a minor. So if you're strategic about it, you definitely can.
But and we don't have any sort of like restriction. The question was, can I take something if I'm just interested? You know, as long as you have the prerequisite class, which is if you start at the beginning, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So one question I see is, what impact has COVID had on your hands-on learning in these majors? So in terms of courses, you know, we are in person. We have a number of students, 400 across the university, who are studying virtually. And our job as professors is to create a path to success for all of our students, whether they're in person or whether they are remote learners this semester. And so in some cases, I know like in the physics department, they're mailing little kits to the students so they can do their hands-on stuff at home. In some cases, like my husband is teaching a course called Energy and Environment this semester. I think, Callie, you're in that, right? And you're a remote learner, so maybe you can talk a little bit about that. I mean, it's hard, but.
Yeah, so for our labs, he typically will like break us out into breakout rooms where there's at least one student who's in person in the group so that they can be doing the lab and showing us the things that they're doing. And today he actually took the class out to the solar panels for a field trip, and he put us on his phone on Zoom so we could come along on the walk with them and see the solar panels. So it takes a little bit of creativity, but I've still been able to get the lab experiences done, and I think it's been still really fun.
David, do you want to talk a little bit about what's going on in the biology department in terms of hands-on stuff?
It's been challenging. We can't deny that, but we've still managed to have all of our research going on out in the field. And I have been formulating my groups in my classes so that there's some virtual folks and some folks that are in person. And yeah, they bring their group members on their phones. And then I've noticed sometimes when they don't want to hear what they have to say, they just, but yeah, it's been interesting. But it hasn't stopped us from going in the field. It hasn't stopped us from collecting data.
Awesome. Do we have some Go programs that are associated with ecology and environmental science? I think.
Yeah, I was just typing the answer into that, right? So there are environmental science, ecology, environmental studies faculty who actually lead their own Go Short programs. So Dr. Straub, like Jonathan was saying, in my department, he leads Go Iceland and Go Morocco. Dr. Elick in my department leads Go Northern Ireland. Derek Martin, our sustainability coordinator, is going to lead a Go Singapore program starting next summer. It was supposed to go last summer, then it was supposed to go this winter. Now it's going to go next summer. But then there's also, and in biology, like Dr. Richard does Australia, right? But there's also some environmentally focused programs that are not actually run by environmental necessarily professors. So there's the Galapagos. Help me out. There's a lot.
There's Patagonia, I think.
Right.
Galapagos, Patagonia. There's
Isn't there
many.
one to Asia that focuses on climate change?
Oh yeah, Nepal. That's right.
Nepal? Yeah.
Yep. They climb to base camp, I think, at Mount Everest. That's Dr. Richard. Yep. So often I get asked, like, do you have to go on a Go program that like is associated with your major? And the answer is absolutely not. So you can go on any Go program you want. You can do a Go Long like Grace did and go for a whole semester. A lot of our students like to go to New Zealand and Australia for perhaps obvious reasons. You can do a Go Short, which is one of these that goes over winter break or during the summer, that's faculty or staff led. Or you can do what's called Go Your Own Way, which is like you do kind of like a third party provider. And I was just talking with a student today, one of my advisees, that 2 of my majors who I featured in the environmental studies, what do these people do after graduation slide, they each in separate years did a Go Your Own Way program in Nepal, where it was a very service-based program. And so you're really immersed in the culture because you're going there kind of by yourself and you're navigating all this. It's safe because it's through a different program, but it's not run through Susquehanna. And they both had amazing experiences. They did that over winter break.
All right. Well, we surely do appreciate all of you spending some time with us this evening. We've got lots to say because we've got really awesome programs in these particular areas. So again, we just really appreciate you joining us. If you like what you're hearing and would like to know more about Susquehanna University, just know that we are open for business. So we are able to host visitors on campus on a limited basis. We keep everybody very safe and socially distanced, but you would be welcome to join us for an information session, a campus tour, and get a sense of what this place is like with your boots on the ground. So I think that, we've got one more quick question. Oh, we'd like the Venn diagram back, please, Dr. Matlaga.
And while David is pulling that up, I would like to also just say how proud I am of the whole Susquehanna community for the fact that we are in person, we are still open, we are having remote learners, right? And students wear masks on campus when they're outside of their room all day, and everybody is so good about it. It is really like, even when people are walking outside, like you don't, when you're on campus, you don't feel like anybody is trying to, get away with anything. Everyone is really community focused and wearing masks to protect each other. So it's a really nice feeling to be on campus.
Wait, did I share? I can't remember.
You did.
Yes, you did.
Okay, good.
Maybe just make it full screen or like.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that seems like a perfect way to finish off this evening. So let's see. Oh, well, thank you, Scott. And it's a labor of love on our part for sure. So again, thank you all for joining us. And with that, I think we will say good night to each other. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you to our panelists. It's been a fantastic evening, and we look forward to speaking more with our attendees as they get through the application process. All right, take care and good night, everybody.
Bye, everyone.